Sam, and I'm speaking to you today about Guru Purnima, which means literally the full moon of our Guru, or of our teacher. And it is the full moon that happens in July every year. Usually it's July. Each year, when the full moon usually happens in the sign of Sagittarius, sometimes in Capricorn, but usually in Sagittarius. And it's the day to celebrate and worship and revere and honor our teachers, our gurus. And that could be like a teacher, like an astrology teacher, or it could be a Sat guru, like as many of you know, my guru is Amachi, the hugging saint from India. But I could also honor other teachers on that day, but it's the day to honor not just the teachers, but the teachings, and to really understand and get the fullness of the teachings and their impact, and connect with our love of the teachings, and of course usually that's the love of the guru as well, because we're so grateful to what the teacher or the guru has taught us. You know, it's like we feel as though we can hardly repay them, because when we've learned something, especially, you know, something that teaches us about life and about ourselves and who we are, it's the most important stuff we ever learn. We can go to college and school and learn about subjects or whatever, but when we learn about ourselves and the wisdom of the cosmos, and of the inner cosmos, or of, you know, yoga and our spiritual evolution, we feel so grateful that it evokes a lot of devotion in our heart, and that's the day to really connect with that. And in so doing, we also connect to the true source of the wisdom, which is that devotion. It's kind of like a self-perpetuating cycle, because the more devotion we have for our teacher, the more open our heart is to receive it, and the more wisdom we get from it. And again, one of the reasons, and this isn't in the scriptures, I actually try to find the scriptural origin of Guru Purnima, and I can't really find it. I don't really know what text it comes from. It's probably in Mahabharata, or you know, maybe Srimad Bhagavatam, or one of the you know, one of the secular writings, because it's a secular holiday. It's not from the Vedas. But you often have many of these Purnimas. There's Buddha Purnima that happened a couple months ago. It was 2 full moons ago. There's a lot. I'm not the best at knowing every Indian festival or Purnima. Usually on full moons, you have a lot of these kind of reverent days, and then at the beginning, on new moons, we often have the beginning of something like Navratri, which is the 9 days to celebrate the Divine Mother. On new moons and full moons, you have a lot of these you know, holidays or holy days, because that's the real, you know, calendar. That's the real timepiece. We mark calendar by the beginning of the month being January, February, which is a Gregorian calendar date. It has nothing to do with the cosmic sky. When we're connected with the rhythm of the sky and of the cosmos, we see that the cycles actually begin when sun and moon come together on a new moon, what's called Amavasya, and then the halfway point, the Purnima, the full moon, is when our mind is much more aware of that, of whatever the lesson is, because the moon is our mind, and the moon is full. So our mind is full of whatever that indicator is. So Guru Purnima, our mind is full of the wisdom of the Guru, and to really understand what the Guru's impact is in our life. And the reason I said I can't find the origin of it, so I don't really know why it's that particular month, the month of Ashad, which is in the summer. But my feeling is, because it usually is in sidereal Sagittarius, and I've researched this, I think over the past like 15 years, it's been in Sagittarius like, you know, at least 10 of the times. So about 2/3 of the time, which you would expect, it would be in Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter, who is Guru. And in particular, Sagittarius is the quality of Jupiter that is literally like a guru, a teacher, because Sagittarius is literally like a teacher. It's basically what you might call our religion, like a religious quality of teaching, which is to believe the teaching. Whereas Pisces, the other sign ruled by Jupiter, is more metaphysics, where everything is the teacher and we're just kind of, you know, instead of following like a path, we're kind of merging with a cosmic unity. That's the quality of Jupiter that's shown in Pisces. But the quality of Jupiter that's shown by Sagittarius is the clear teaching that we follow, that we believe in. And it's opposite Gemini, which is where we question our teachers, where we question our beliefs, and we need to have that. We need to have a healthy skepticism about anything we're taught, and any guru who tells you to just believe them without challenging them is not a very good guru or very good teacher. Good teachers want all of your difficult questions. Bring me the hardest questions you have, and if I can't answer them, then I'm not a good guru, or you're not my student. Because in fact, it happens with me, because I teach a lot, teach astrology a lot. And students will sometimes ask me questions, and I answer the question, but the student doesn't get the answer for some reason. I'm just not the one to communicate it to them. So they need to find another guru, and that's fine. So the full moon, especially if you want to say stereotypically or archetypally in Sagittarius, is where we harmonize that natural skepticism in the mind, which is Gemini. Gemini is where we're curious to find answers regardless of what we're taught. It's like, okay, I know you told me to believe this, but I'm going to find my own answers, and I need to make sure that what you're telling me to believe, I can understand myself, and I test it, and I ask my teachers, I look for other kinds of information. Okay, well, you say that's right, but they say that's right. So let me find out for myself. That's Gemini in the highest sense. To explore answers and find them ourselves. And what happens in Gemini also is it takes that potentially rigid quality of Sagittarius, which says, again, if a teacher says just believe me and don't question me, that's not a very good teacher, which can be the downside of Sagittarius. Blind faith. Blind faith is not good because it creates hypocrites. We need the things we believe to make sense to our rational mind. Otherwise, we don't really understand them. And again, this is that Gemini Sagittarius axis, which is so important in having teachings that we can articulate, that we understand, that we can share. And obviously astrology is a great example of that. If we just believe in astrology but we can't explain it, or we don't know how to use it, or we can't figure it out, like we can't practice it, again, astrology is a practice, it's not a belief. A practice is the Gemini, the belief. So this is getting worked out on the Guru Purnima, the full moon, because the month starts with the sun. You know, the sun is in Gemini usually, which is where we're questioning, but then it comes around to the full moon in Sagittarius, where it's like, oh, that's what the teacher meant. Oh, I'm so grateful now. It's like, yes, I've tried to debunk or ask my hard questions of the teacher, and they answered the questions, and I'm so grateful. Yes, I get it. I get this harmonization, this harmonizing of my natural desire to want to believe and to want to trust that you're a teacher who knows what they're talking about, and my naturally skeptical mind who is suspicious of people who tell me just to believe them. And again, usually, in fact, almost all the time, a very good teacher will not ask you to just believe them. They'll invite your questions. They'll enjoy answering your questions. So this is a big thing to keep in mind on Guru Purnima, is that it's the time when you really get it, because what the moon is literally your psychology, your heart, your feelings. And you really can get this with enormous clarity on Guru Purnima on that day. And so it's a very blessed day, of course. And when it comes around each year, you want to honor your teachers and connect with your teachings and just feel, you know, not even them as an individual. It's not about worshiping the individual teacher, but it's about honoring the, you know, the source of the wisdom, but also having gratitude that you found that teacher, whatever they're teaching you. You know, maybe it's astrology teacher or yoga teacher or a Satguru or just the source of all the wisdom itself. But again, one other thing to say though is that an actual guru or an actual teacher of something is usually necessary if something is complex, like astrology, for example, or like, you know, spiritual development and becoming enlightened, because it's difficult. And the answers are in the texts, they're in the scriptures, but, you know, Swami Shivananda, the great yoga master, you know, made the analogy that the texts and the scriptures are like they're like a forest. You know, there's a bunch of paths and there's contradictions and there's all kinds of pitfalls where you can just, again, that Gemini information, curiosity part of the mind can just run like a rat in a maze all over the place and not be able to filter through what's authoritative, especially in scriptures. I'll say myself as an astrology teacher, there's a lot of text, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of stuff, and being able to like prioritize and help students just get through that. So there's a path that you can get through, and then you can see the other parts in the forest as well. The forest can be easily enjoyable if you have the path that you can walk through. But if you don't have a path, you can get lost in it and never find your way out of it, and then it doesn't become a source of beauty, it becomes a source of horror. You know, when you have the path that you can get through so you can avoid the wild animals and the poisonous flowers and all that, then you can just walk through the path and enjoy the teachings and enjoy the wisdom. And that's what a great guru is. They help you through that. And they've done a lot of that work. And then you ask them questions if you've done your own research. I'll just use myself as an example because I teach a lot. Students will ask me, what about in this text it says that, that teacher says that, this one says that. And you'll find in very good teachers, they understand these things, they understand their own limitations as well, what they don't know, and they also have tolerance for other teachers, other paths, other texts, other scriptures, other cultures. There's openness and tolerance. And they realize that maybe they're showing you a path, but not the only path, the only possible way it could ever be done. That kind of dogmatism is also not usually good for a guru. Although they also would let you know that at some point you have to dedicate yourself to a path, especially the one that really works for you, and stop dabbling and dilly-dallying with a bunch of gurus. So again, these are all the issues that we get clear, or we can get clear about, and we need to get clear about when we try to learn something, especially something that's complicated. And I would say things that are spiritual in nature, like a subject like astrology or yoga or evolving consciousness, like with my guru Amma. There's a lot of spiritual teachers, and I could study with all of them, and I have studied many of them and with them. But once I found that being and her teachings and the way she brings it about and her example, it changed everything. Because again, this is what the guru becomes. It becomes an example of what you want to aspire to. And this is important for us in a body, because we're incarnated in a physical body. And the reason it's said that the guru is such a blessing is because we have a hard time with the abstract. You know, and I hear this, people say this about Amma all the time. Well, I don't really need to go see her in person because I just love knowing that she's there, and whether she's here or not, she's always there. All of that's true. But we have a hard, you know, the guru assumes a form. I'll just say a Satguru like Amma assumes a form for our benefit because we benefit from seeing that. We might have this concept that she's always there, or she's just an embodiment of the divine, whatever, but we forget it because we're not yet. We're still in the body, in our emotions, in all of our stuff. And when we see a being behaving, for instance, like the way that Amma does, hugging thousands of people and not getting any sleep and still being this embodiment of love and beauty and joy when we're just going through hell, frankly, there's something different and unmistakable about seeing the behavior of this being, because we measure people by our behavior and their behavior. So when we see a guru walking the talk, which is the important part, again, whether it's a Satguru or a Jyotish guru or a yoga teacher, and we see them walk the talk, we see them do the stuff, we're like, this is real, this is authentic. That's what I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to have that level of equanimity of mind, or read the astrology chart so easily and be so clear and confident, or have that kind of, calm and peace with all situations, like with the yoga, like with the yoga master or spiritual master. So this is what the guru is. It's not some kind of mental enslavement. It's not some kind of religious worship that is devoid from any autonomy or independent thought. Especially in the West, we have all kinds of, all of our kind of alarms go up when we hear, oh, guru, oh, we don't need to worship, we can just, again, find my own path. Well, great, find your own path. There's nothing anathema to a guru and finding your own path. Every good guru, by the way, will encourage you to find your own path. Again, so when people don't get into these things, when people are afraid, because they're afraid of the mental enslavement, the fear of surrender, because, by the way, it's about the hardest thing you'll ever do, is surrender to a guru. As much as I want to say Amma is my guru, my capacity to really surrender and really implement is feeble. You shouldn't say, oh, Sam, you're so spiritual because you have a guru. Okay, I'm trying. But it's hard for me as it is for everybody. Well, maybe harder, because I have a strong sense of self and identity and all, and it's hard to surrender. This is what the guru needs to actually work on us. It's like a surgeon. Like, sometimes the only way a surgeon can work on us is to knock us out, put us under anesthesia so they can actually work on us. And so we have to put our ego, something has to knock our ego out every now and then so the guru can actually work on us, because we're so full of our own stuff. I'm saying me. And again, in Guru Purnima, this is a time when we can really get that lesson and truly be grateful and truly be thankful that we've found this being. And also realize, and I'll speak from my personal experience, realize how much we need to be more open and have more surrender and actually put their teachings into practice more and be more malleable. Like children are very malleable. They're very open. We get older and we're not. This is why, again, this is why you hear things in scriptures, in all scriptures, where this says you have to be like a child again, and innocent like a child. Again, because we're suspicious and we've been exploited, all of our conspiracy theorizing starts when someone says, be open and trusting like a child. Oh yeah, why? So you can take advantage of me? Right? We get this whole thing going on. So all of these things are what's happening in our relationship with Guru anyway, whether it's an astrology teacher, a Satguru, or whatever. Our ability to question the teacher, to actually listen to the teacher, once we get that they're valid, that the teacher is actually authentic, and that they have our best interest in mind, because we'll see that as well. We'll see that the teacher, let's say that it's like a yoga teacher or astrology teacher, they're still an individual, they're not an enlightened being yet, but when it comes to their relationship with you and your progress, you should be able to see very clearly that they have your best interest in mind. And there should be evidence of times when they are selfless in their interaction with you. Again, if not, then maybe they're still working through that. That doesn't mean you can't learn from them, but you'll start to notice these kinds of things like, wow, this person really is just trying to help me learn this. And by the way, I'll just say, as someone who is a teacher, it's people might often say, oh, that's a great quality that you have as a teacher. Yes, but it's also the great thing that I learned about myself. And all of us who have taught something understand that the reason teaching is such an honorable thing is because it awakens that part of you that is selfless, that will sacrifice yourself and your own well-being for your students, because you're connected with something higher. This is why I always encourage people to not just learn, but to teach. And even when they're doing astrology readings, for example, because that's my teaching, I make sure they know that one of the best things that you can do for the person when you're doing the reading is teaching them about themselves and the chart and astrology, rather than getting all hooked into predictions and all these other things that we worry about. Anyway, so this whole energy of reverence, generosity, appreciation, devotion, surrender is why Guru Purnima is such a blessed day. So this is always a great situation, and you always want to try to be, if you can, be in the presence of your teacher at that time, or at least spend some time that day connecting with their teachings and your relationship with it. It's not about them. It is in your mind because because they represent something that awakens your devotion, not because they're so important, to some extent, but your love for the teachings that they've brought forth should evoke something in you rather than just worship of them. It's again, Guru, the sort of Guru Bhava is not about necessarily even the worship of them. It's not worship, it's devotion. And it can be devotion to them, but what the devotion should be is not some kind of enslavement, but an opening where you can relax and trust and be open and drop the guard, drop the suspicion, drop the illusion that you're going to figure it all out somehow, someday, some way, because we're all in the midst of something that we can't control, that we don't understand, and we're trying to understand it. And then to trust that the wisdom of the cosmos is full and complete and unfolding without you without your ego. So you need to align your heart with that. And if you're trying to do it through astrology, that's one way. Honor your astrology teachers, or yoga that way, Ayurveda that way, or spiritual enlightenment that way. So Guru Purnima is the day when we really get it in our mind and heart, and we can really feel that devotion and really connect with that bhava, or that feeling and that flow, that unbroken flow, where we're innocent and open again like a child who just trusts, who realizes, I trust this, I can relax in this, I'm cared for here, and I can let that wisdom just flow into me. So, that's Guru.